Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to tonight's Your Space presentation. We're thrilled to have Michelle from Ron Joyce Children's Health Center with us. Michelle is part of the community education service there, and she will be sharing different ways that we can help our children and youth stress less tonight. And we're going to just hand things over to Michelle.
Okay, well, thank you for having me. I'm so happy that we've set this up because people are dying to get some information, and it's been really hard to be able to give them some information. So, this is a great way to do that. So, I'm going to go through the slides. If there's any questions, like Louise said, just put them in and I'll do my best to answer them. So, stress. I mean, right now we're under different types of stress. So we can talk a little bit about that as well. Um, but stress is normal to certain situations, certain demands. It's part of everyday life, and it affects people differently. So some people get upset because one child is okay with something, another child is not. But knowing that your children are different, every day is a little bit different, and we usually see the tip of the iceberg. So it's all the stuff underneath that we're going to do a little bit of that detective thinking, and we're going to help you with that so you can try to understand where it's coming from. So, the problem with stress is that chronic stress can lead to mental health and also medical issues. So that's something that, we want to be mindful of. We don't want to protect our children from all stress. They need a little bit of stress in their lives. It gets them motivated to get their homework done, their room cleaned before their friends come over. But when there's chronic stress and not a lot of coping strategies or problem solving, that's when it can lead to health concerns. So, changes in life are difficult. And again, if especially, oh, why did it jump? Weird. Um, why is it switching on me? It's pretty, okay, there we go. um, so, life changes, any kind of change. Some children going from one activity to another activity. It could be two fun activities. That's stressful. Transitions are hard. So, major stuff really shakes their sense of security. They're not quite sure what's happening. And it could be an exciting thing, or we may perceive it as an exciting thing. They may have let us know this is exciting, like, oh, a new baby's coming. And then the baby comes and it's like, wait a minute, when is this baby going back to the hospital? Or when is this going to change? Or this is really different than I thought. So there's a lot of major things that happen in our children's lives that will shake their sense of security. And that's where we start seeing those behaviors and we see the acting out or the stress come out in different ways. Um, so it comes up whenever a child or teen needs to adapt or change. And like I said, you've got those black and white rigid kids that like things a certain way. Right now, we don't know what's going on. There's a lot of unknowns. Things are very, very different. So it can cause a lot of stress. And then if you've got all those other things that pile on top, and then you've got a child that's struggling with anxiety already, or ADHD, or a learning disability, or they're only 5, or they're only 10, that just starts piling up. Um, and stress may be caused by positive changes, like starting a new activity, like I said. Some kids are really excited to do something, but it's a new thing and it's a change. And we get frustrated. Like, why are you stressed about this? You said you wanted to go to a new school for a start. You said you wanted to take dance class, and now you're stressing out about it. It's normal. So if they're doing it, they're normal, which is good. Good to know that those things are okay. So we see the symptoms of stress. Okay, so there's all kinds of pictures here. We have children that are smiling, children that are angry. We've got siblings fighting because they get on each other's nerves. And, maybe we've got teenagers that are shutting down. You could have younger children that shut down, right? It's that fight or flight response or freeze response. How are your children reacting? And we have to kind of look underneath that. But we see this tip of the iceberg, and one minute they might be shut down. The next minute, maybe they're smiling and just putting on a happy face, because when you're smiling all the time, no one asks you questions. And then you give them a purple cup instead of a blue cup, and their head pops off. And we think, what's the matter? And it's, again, more stuff underneath, which we're going to get to. So here's just a short little checklist. What are you seeing in your children? Maybe some of these things you see in yourself. Because this is a stressful time, we might be noticing things about ourselves. The unknown is really scary, change is scary for us and stressful. So you might be seeing some of these things, that isolation, over or under eating, decreased activities, irritability. Are your children acting out? Maybe they're becoming a lot clingier. And especially when you haven't explained to the kids or talked to them about the changes and what's happening, they might start imagining what possibly could be happening. Or maybe they've overheard conversations and they're watching the news, so they're getting clingy. Even though we haven't turned the news on, maybe they've overheard it, so they become clingy, or they're not quite sure what to expect. So we start seeing these behaviors. And with ourselves and even our older children, you might see some of that risky behavior or substance abuse, using drugs and alcohol. Maybe they might just seem unmotivated, and it's all part of that stress. And again, this is just a short little checklist. It can be many, many different things. So this is a poll. So you're just going to um, check some of these off. So again, this is just a very short little list, and take a few minutes to do that. And then we'll see, how do your children let you know that they're stressed out?
Just jump on. Looks like everyone's finding that poll too really easily. There is a little scroll bar at the right hand side of the poll. There might be one or two options that are a little bit lower down in the list if you want to make sure you don't miss any.
Okay. The other thing too is that you may not know. Like I notice sleep. Well, actually, it's 60%. It's going up. But some people don't know. I actually didn't realize that my son was not sleeping well, and he was waking up irritable. And it was because he wasn't sleeping well, because his anxiety was kind of keeping him up. So he didn't let me know what was going on. So the grumpiness kind of led us to have an open conversation. And then he was able to tell me that he wasn't sleeping well. He was having a hard time falling asleep. So those are things that maybe right now you're not aware of, but to be a little more aware, maybe ask some questions. And the irritability is huge, right? So we see the aggression. I would say the aggression is what I get a lot of questions with parents. And, you know, kids are emotional. We're very rational. We kind of get into that rational piece of, you don't do that, stop acting that way, you don't hit, you don't do that. And then it turns into being all about the rules and not really about the emotion. So absolutely, you do need to address aggression. You can't just let someone, hit you in the face and be okay with it. However, what we tend to lead with is, don't do that. And when the child is calmer, it's like, I'm noticing that this is happening and this is how you're reacting. And being angry is okay, hitting is not. And do they have an alternative? And is it really about that thing, or have they been irritated the whole time? You've asked them to go play with their brother. They haven't had any downtime at all. They're over, stimulated in the house. They want to go outside. They want to do whatever, and their brother keeps following them around. And all they needed was 15 minutes of time, but they haven't articulated that. And then their brother comes into their space and they freak out, right? So it's an accumulation of things, but it's looking at those things and saying, this is a problem. And it's okay to take a break. If they're isolating themselves, what are they doing while they're isolating themselves? If they're reading books or watching funny videos or doing something, even just taking a nap, that's okay. But if they're doing it to avoid life, that's not okay. So it's just checking in with them and making sure that when they do take that time, that they are using it in appropriate ways. So, just paying more attention, noticing where those things are coming from, and even in a change in sleep, if they're not sleeping well or they're oversleeping, especially not sleeping well, they're going to be really irritable. So be mindful of that. And the unmotivated piece, are they unmotivated or are they feeling overwhelmed? They don't know how to start. They feel stressed and they don't even know what the first steps are. And we feel like, you know what, you're 12, figure this out, or you're 6 or you're 17, figure this out. I don't know how to ask for help. So I just get agitated. And then you're like, why aren't you doing this? What's the matter with you? And then they already feel that shame and they feel bad and then they get really irritable. So it's really starting to pull layers back and having calm conversations with your kids when they're in a good space and you're in a good space to say, this is what I'm noticing. This is what I'm noticing. Let's talk about this a little bit. Help me understand what's going on. What are some of those things that are bugging them, that are getting in the way? And then you're seeing these reactions. Okay, so thanks for filling out that poll. So one way is those behaviors. Other ways are through emotional symptoms, the low mood, shutting down, having those big emotions, um, feeling overwhelmed, going on and on. I don't have to read all of them for you, but it's usually not just one emotion that they're feeling, and they're feeling a bunch of them at the same time and in very intense, and then you see some of those behaviors. So some want to protect themselves, so they shut down. Others just get in that panicked mode or just super irritable, and then you start seeing that aggression, right? Others are just like deer in headlights and they don't do much. So again, looking at those things with the behaviors, and they all kind of work together. It's not like you just see one emotion or one behavior. So it's looking at all those things, and you're trying to get your child to be aware of those things and aware of their emotions and what's going on with them so we can be a little more proactive. And that's what we're going to work on in a few more slides. So then we have the physical symptoms. I would say that a lot of children have the physical symptoms. It's the stuff that parents and adults pay attention to more. If I vomit, then I get to stay home. Or if I have a headache, I can go take a nap. So when we're not feeling well, school is more likely to call, daycare will more likely to call, um, and we're more likely to listen to that. And the emotion and the feeling is there, right? So it is real pain. They really do have a stomach ache. They really do have a headache, but organically nothing is wrong with them, right? But your body isn't feeling good and your body is telling you something is up. So even if they do vomit, are they really sick? Do they have a fever? Or is this their stress and anxiety coming up and this is how my body reacts? So let's validate that. How can we help you? Do you need a cool pack? Do you need a hot pack? What are some of those things that we've kind of worked on to get you through this? And then we still have to get out the door. Then we still have to follow through with what we're doing. And again, it's the headache plus the behavior. Then you've got the emotions, and it's all just going around and around. And then you see the reactions. And then there's the cognitive. So again, this is the fourth section, and again, very short. You can look up all these things online to see about more symptoms. You can probably add your own list of things. That perfectionism is in a lot of anxious children that just want to do really well. They have a hard time letting things go, so they just keep going and going and going, and they don't quit. So those concentration issues, predicting the worst, they're catastrophizing. 10 good things could have happened, and they just remember that one bad thing that happened, and it kind of takes over that whole event, right? So the mall didn't go well because one bad thing happened, but actually 10 good things did happen. So when you have all these things happening at the same time, a bunch of them, and then they don't have coping strategies or problem solving strategies, then it can get in the way. So we have to be those detectives to look at what's happening with them. Can we actually pull some of this stuff apart? Can we talk to them about it? And then what's the next step? How do we help them through this? Because, like I said earlier, we can't protect them from life. We have to prepare them for life, and just putting them in a bubble doesn't help. And when you're jumping in to fix, when you're telling them what they should be doing, or calm down, or you're fine, they don't feel heard and they don't feel like they have the steps. So, what is it that I was supposed to do? Or they panic and we jump in and fix stuff. And then they go out into the world and no one knows what the step is, or that they like their purple cup or their blue cup or whatever it is, because we've walked on eggshells and we've made sure everything is okay for them so they feel okay. But we're just protecting and we're not preparing them with the tools. So you have to be able to tolerate your own stress and not jump in, and realize that they're young, their brains are under construction until 25, and we have to build those proper connections in their brain to do those good choices. So this is going to take a little bit of time. And for some children that have learning disabilities, that are young, maybe have ADHD or autism, this is all going to take some time, and different things are going to irritate different kids and different people. So if you look at an example, maybe this is, a 13-year-old child, a 12-year-old child, and poor organization. So their room is a mess. Their bag is like full of papers, probably a sandwich that has been under there for, a few months. Math might be really tough for them. It's just a really big, it's a tough thing. They just don't get it. They may even be good at it, but it's not something they enjoy. Well, then on top of that, they have an ADHD diagnosis, or maybe even not a diagnosis. And if there isn't a diagnosis, even more stressful, because they just think, what's wrong with me? Why can't I figure this out? Well, then I'm really impulsive. So I do things that I regret later. I have a hard time admitting that I've regretted it, and I say, I don't care, or it doesn't matter, or whatever, but really it does bother me. And then I just failed a test and I had a fight with my best friend. So they're holding this stuff on, like holding on to this. We may not be aware of it, or maybe we're only aware of one or two things, or we think, hey, you know what? You think this is problems, kid? Like math isn't that bad. This is easy, or a failed test. So what? It's just one failed test. But I studied for a long time, and now you're just telling me don't worry about it. Or this is one failed test that you know about. I've got another three in my bag or under my bed that you're going to find out about, and you're going to be really mad. And then my only friend at school isn't talking to me. So that's all these stressors. Well, then on top of that, you've got emotion. So then I'm going to start feeling overwhelmed. Then I'm going to feel anxiety. I feel misunderstood, like no one really gets me. And then I'm going to feel really discouraged. What is my motivator to do well when I just feel like I'm a failure And my mom reminds me all the time. My dad supports me. My teachers are doing this. And I just keep screwing up. I get frustrated. So you've got all this on one page. And then you give them the purple cup and their head pops off. Is it about the purple cup? It is not. It is about all this stuff. It's really tough to understand what's going on with your child, especially when you are frustrated with them or you ask them what's going on, and all you get is, I don't know. I don't want to talk about it, or I'm fine. So it gets really frustrating for us because I'm putting myself out here. I want to help you, but I need some help from you as well. But if you can look at things from a different angle and understand and try to remember what it was like to be a kid. Were you that anxious child? Were you that unorganized child? Were you that kid that was getting into trouble all the time? If you weren't, it's really tough sometimes to connect with your children. And that's really stressful for them as well when they feel like they're a screw up. Like, my sister's perfect and my brother is doing all these things, and then there's me. Or, you think, when I was 9, I could do this, this, and this. This kid can barely brush his teeth and get ready for school, and he's 12, right? And we get frustrated with it. But if you can step back a little bit and think about where is your child struggling? What are all those things that are happening for them? And can you try to find a little kernel of truth in that? Or can you imagine what it would be like to be your child that has all this stuff going on and no tools to deal with it? Or they have the tools and they just don't have the problem solving and they really struggle with following through and then they feel bad and discouraged. I'm not saying it's easy as parents, but we want to try to connect with our children so we can better understand them and give them the support that they need because we want to build them up. We want to send them off to college and university. We don't want them living in our basement until they're 50, right? We want them out and feeling good. And being able to handle some stress means giving them some tools and putting them in a little bit of that deep water so they can learn how to swim. We're not dropping them into the deep end without any swimming lessons or supports or practice, but it's really starting with these types of things to see what are the symptoms, what's going on, and then how do we support them. Is there any questions that anybody has at this time before I move forward? Okay, so the question is, my son gets frustrated and then dismisses it, dismisses it as though it doesn't matter. I can't get him to talk about it later when he's calmer. Okay, so this is common because I've just calmed down and now you want me to talk about it. So, or some children want to hold on to their emotion. And I remember having a teenager and her mom is like, can you please talk to her? And then the child started crying and she's like, see, look at what you've done, right? So basically, leave me alone. I got this under control. And now you keep poking and poking at me. So you want them to talk. Timing is really important. And the thing too is that you can say, okay, so you're saying it's not a big deal. However, you just threw your boot across the room, or you didn't end up going to soccer practice because you were so angry, or you spent the whole time in your room all weekend. So, what really are you concerned about? And you can't force conversations. And maybe one on one talking is a little bit hard. Would they like to have a communication book, filling out a page of things that bug me? Because right now I don't feel like talking about it, but later on I may want to talk about it. And it's timing is so important because if I'm really upset right now and then I go and I relax and I go outside, I cuddle with my puppy, maybe I watch something funny and then I come back into the room and you want to talk about it. And it's like, seriously? Again? Like I just calmed down. Now you want to get into it. And you want to, what's going on? We're gonna sit here and we're gonna figure this out, right? So that's tough to do as a parent. The other thing is timing. So let's talk about this. Okay, so you're upset. Do you want to talk about it now? When would be a good time to talk about it? I'm concerned about you. I'm worried that you're struggling, and I just want to be able to support you and know that I'm here. So if you're saying it's okay, then that's okay, but I'm here to talk to you. When they're calmer, to bring this up, that this is an ongoing thing, that you get really upset about stuff and then you say it's no big deal. And I don't know, you may feel embarrassed, or maybe you feel like I'm going to get angry with you, but I actually really love you and I know that you're struggling and I want to be there to support you. So when you're ready to talk, let's talk. Or would you rather fill out this worksheet on things that bug me and color in the bugs? Or would you like to have a communication book? What would be helpful for you? And this might take some time, right? Because also we have to be mindful of our tone. We can say we've got to talk, or we can say, hey, buddy, we've got to talk about this. When's a good time to talk? And he might say never. And you can say, I know you may not want to talk about your emotion because it brings up more emotion. My concern is that this happened and this happens, or that it's happening on a regular basis. And I want to help you. Right. So I hope that was helpful. Hopefully that was okay. That was a good answer, that I answered your question there. So what we've got is plan B. So your son, for example, is plan B, right? Um, well, wait a minute, did I miss something? Where's plan A? Plan A is we panic, we avoid, we withdraw. That's usually our plan A. My slides are switched there. So when we're stressed, this is what we go to, right? Our fight or flight or freeze. And instead, what we want is we want a plan B. But like you said, and it's very common, they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to have these conversations with you. They may feel you don't get it, right? And when we jump into fix, then that's really, really frustrating. So before you can make a plan, you have to kind of build up that relationship with your child. Um, so when we work on that plan, um, we have to be ready to do that. And I'm not going to say to you, well, you're telling me you want to get fit. Okay, do 80 push-ups a day. Well, I don't want to do 80 push-ups a day. I told you I wanted to get fit. I didn't ask you for advice, and we just give advice. Well, this is what works for me. What would work for you? I don't know. This is what's going to work. And this is what we tend to do with our kids, is we jump in with advice instead of saying, this isn't working. Doing our homework has been really stressful. What's going on with the homework? They may say, this is stupid. I don't even want to do the homework. It doesn't matter. What does it matter if I even do the homework? No one even cares. Or you're too busy doing other stuff. And it's like, I'm too busy doing other stuff. What are you talking about? I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I just sat down with you. And that tone, and we get defensive, and the kid's like, see, you don't even care, right? And what that child is saying is, I'm struggling. It doesn't mean that it's rational, it doesn't mean that it's true, but it's their experience. And when we jump in to try to fix or tell them how to feel, it shuts them down. So, how are we going to start a plan when they don't feel connected with you? So, I'm just going to read the note. Notes have worked before, but I guess to be more consistent about offering that. Absolutely. I think we kind of forget what works, right? So hopefully this will be a reminder to you of what does work. And sometimes having that communication book is helpful. Sometimes just having that communication book to say, I didn't have a good day. I got an 80 on the test. I was expecting to get a 90. We think, what's the big deal? But to them, it's upsetting. And if they want to talk about it, we can talk about it. If not, just thank you for like, I can read that, and that's it. And I can just know that they were upset about the test. We don't have to talk about everything. So now we are talking about everything, but be specific as to what your concern is. So my concern is, when you get upset, I don't see you for days because you're sleeping or you're shut down. My concern is, when you get upset, you use your hands and your feet instead of your voice. My concern is that right now everything is okay, but when we go back to school, or we go back to doing soccer, or we go back to scouts or art class, that's when your stress comes up. You love doing it, but it's really tough getting you there. Or with all the things going on, you get overwhelmed and then you just don't want to do anything. So, what is the plan? And we have to be mindful that they're kids. What's motivating them? Because a lot of times parents have their own plan and their own things that motivate them. But what's motivating the child to want to put this plan together? Do they need help? Do they realize there's an issue? Or when we talk to them, it's very shameful. And a lot of us were brought up that way with shame and guilt. It's our go-to. And even asking the question, why do you act that way, is shaming. So basically what you're saying is you're a disappointment and you're doing it on purpose. So instead, we can say Tuesday went well, Wednesday didn't go so well. Help me understand what's going on. Mornings are a real struggle, or homework is a real struggle, or I notice that you don't hang out or talk to your friends so much anymore. What's going on? I'm concerned. So you're coming from a different angle instead of what's going on with you. We need to talk about this. What's happening? And then our tone changes. So we have to be calm going in. What are those goals? It could just be that I've lost that connection with you. You're saying you're okay, yet you don't come down to dinner. And when you do come down to dinner, you barely speak. So I feel like there's something going on. And maybe nothing is going on, but I just need to know I'm kind of not in a great mood. I'm kind of, or I had a fight with my friend or whatever it is, and I don't want to get into it. So those are the kind of conversations to have. And then what can we do? So if you've got kids that are wanting to work on this, they want to work on sharing their feelings, that kind of stuff. What are the strategies? How do you help them out with that? Do they have an area they can go to? What are the things that they like that are not electronic? Electronics are fine once in a while, but they shouldn't be their go-to. A lot of children have stress because they lack connection with friends, they lack consistency, um, they lack those problem solving skills, and then they have a lot of emotion and they don't know what to do with that emotion. So imagine all those things mixed in one day. It's really tough for them. So what can we do? Sitting down and talking with them, making a plan, and making sure that you're being a good role model yourself, because I get that a lot, um, with especially with the teenagers where they're like, I'm fine. My mom is freaking out all the time, or my parents are screaming and yelling all the time. House is chaos. I don't even want to be in the house. There's so much chaos. And then I say something to my mom and she tells me I'm rude or don't act that way. Everything's fine around here. And it's like, I'm not going to talk to you then, right? You're not really wanting to hear me. So you heard what's wrong with you all the time growing up. I never wanted to be like that. Yeah. And sometimes what happens is children learn what they live. Okay. So that's why being a good role model is really important. You can't be perfect all the time, but when things don't go well, or maybe you overreact, or even if you do say those words, you can take that back and say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I said that. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have assumed that you're doing this on purpose. It's not a fun thing to do. I mean, once in a while, my mother comes out of my mouth and I think, oh my goodness, like what was that? It happens, but just being aware of it is really important and own it. Just go up to your child and say, I overreacted, or I'm really stuck here. I don't know how to help you. You don't seem to want to talk to me. Is there somebody else that can support you? Because I'm having a hard time understanding how to support you. I don't really feel like we're really even connected anymore. How do we build our relationship back up? Because you have to really build that relationship for them to trust you. So thank you for sharing that. And it is tough. So don't be hard on yourself. But when you notice you've done something, um, and sometimes in our stress, we just go to our automatics, our plan A's, right? Um, then those things do happen. But just own it, take it back, and just apologize because kids need to know that people make mistakes and this is how we make amends, right? I'm just noticing the time. I gotta hurry up and start talking here quicker. So, everyone's affected differently. What stresses you out may not bother someone else. I love to do webinars. I could talk in front of 1,000 people in a crowd. Wouldn't bother me. It would maybe you'd have a heart attack if somebody told you to do that. Um, and they have different tolerances for stress. So if you have a child that can't tolerate stress and we jump in and fix all the time, what we're teaching them is they don't have the skill, and whatever they're stressed about is going to be really bad. So here, let me fix it for you, or don't do it, or I'll do it. You know, you don't have to go to school, you don't have to write that test, you don't have to go to that party. And what we're teaching them is they don't have the tools, right? So how do we get through this? Validate that, and how do we move forward? So they're lacking those skills to be able to do that, to be able to tolerate that. Some people might be like, I don't know how to turn on a webinar. I'm not going to that webinar. Forget it. It's going to be frustrating. I'm not going to do it. Others will just try it and see what happens. But that's an adult, so even children, they get blocked by their stress. And then when they're stressed, they lack problem solving. So if we're trying to fix things in the moment, it doesn't work. That's why the planning has to happen. But you have things that aren't working, and then we talk about it when we're calm on a Saturday afternoon and then work on it. And we're being mindful that we're not shaming and saying, this needs to change, you keep screwing up, right? Instead, I see that you're struggling. How can I support you? What would help? Okay, so talked about this a lot. It's really tough. Listen, I've got two kids. I've got a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old, and sometimes I just want to bundle them up in some bubble wrap and hold them tight. It's tough to watch them get their, feelings hurt and not do well, but we can't fix everything. And there are times where we have to just acknowledge their struggle and give them a hug afterwards, because jumping into fix is just a band-aid solution. You want to give them the tools and help them put them out into the world so they can practice those things slowly, not just dropping them into the deep end. So the thing with that too is that you need to be able to tolerate your own distress. So if you are jumping into fix because you can't handle watching your kid, your emotions come up, you want to be checking in with yourself as well. So, what works for your child? Do you know what works for your child? So, take a few minutes to do a little check here. I'm seeing some really good answers. And I hope that everybody that pressed the escape and distraction stuff are not just doing video games. Video games are good, but are they calming, right? Um, and and is it the only thing? So if your child doesn't have opportunity to do other things, then that is a problem. Um, so trying to get a variety, but are we creating a space for them that they actually can do that? I'm really glad to see all the physical activity, which is great, which is hard right now. My son loves to play basketball. It's not fun doing it by yourself. And listen, I'm too old to be going out there and playing basketball with him. It's not the same as playing a game, and being able to go out to recess and just walking to and from school. We're missing a lot of that. So are they getting that right now? And when they're sitting all day at school, how do they actually get their physical activity? So again, I'm thinking about, when we go back to real life and doing these things, how do we start giving them the tools now? How do we start working on that? What can they do? And do they have a space that they can go to proactively? So it's not like my head pops off, we'll go outside and play basketball. Can we, when we start feeling these emotions, I'm starting to feel butterflies, sweaty, headaches, I'm starting to become irritable, empower them with what is that those tools that you're doing, and have that checklist or that wheel of choice that they can help you fill in. And when they do those things, acknowledge it, pay attention, give them a thumbs up, kiss on the top of their hand. Hey, you went for a run, or you went outside to play, or you took a nap, and I'm really proud of you. The more you pay attention to good behavior and be specific, you're going to see more of that. But a lot of times we think, well, they should be doing that. They should be, behaving this way, especially if you've got one child that's struggling and two or three that in the house that are not. We tend to think, what's the matter with this one? This one needs more patience and more support and more acknowledgement. They all need acknowledgement, but especially when that child is struggling, is making the right steps and making good choices, we really want to pay attention to that. So if they're not getting enough variety, talk to them, give them opportunities. Maybe I'd love to color, but I can't find a piece of paper to save my life in this house. Or I'd love to play soccer, but I'm horrible at it. So I'd love for you to come outside and help me. Are they going to say that? No. But let's talk to them about it. Yeah, so you offer to play video games with him as a de-stress. Absolutely. And I think that's a fun way to connect with your child, as long as it's not your only go-to. And is it stressful or is it de-stressing? Me playing video games, I'm sweating. I mean, I can't even play Mario Kart, like, let alone some of these other things, right? So as long as it's a positive thing, and when they're getting riled up, and some children don't know how to calm themselves down. So where's the motivator for me to say, sure, go play some video games when you come out of there like a bear and you're freaking out? But if it's a fun way to connect, absolutely play some video games. Just make sure you throw in a few other options. You can do like a family fun jar that you can throw in, a checklist, pull things out. What's the family fun jar for Wednesday night? What are we going to do? So everybody can put some ideas in there and change it up. Create a quiet zone, make their room somewhere where they can go to. You've got to do this for yourself as well. Do you have your own space that you can go to, that you can take 10 minutes and say, I need 10 minutes to take a bath. I need 15 minutes to go and do this, or I'm going to go for my run in the morning and then I feel really good. So, absolutely, connecting with your child, I think, is a wonderful thing. That's what children really are craving. And sometimes they act out because what they're doing is they're seeking attachment from you. So, that's great that you're connecting with your child. Have some visuals. Visuals are great for kids. We really want to be there for them as far as giving them some different options, because talking isn't always the way children do well. So if they've got a thermometer, you can fill the thermometers. You can have a thermometer for mad, sad, glad, and bad. How much of your thermometer would be filled each day? If you think about your child, how much stress do they have? How much happiness do they have in their thermometer? And how do we either turn the volume up on that or turn the volume down? So for each thermometer of emotion, what are their strategies, or what do they need from you to kind of calm that down? And then we teach them how to do it. We're there with them to kind of work through that. And then we let them go and we let them try it on their own. And when they have that checklist or something to check, then you can send them to that. Can you go to your checklist or your negotiation wall, or whatever it is, your wheel of choice? This is just another great way to figure out what's going on with your child. At dotolearn.com, they have one for anxiety. They also have this one for anger. What makes them feel calm? They may not know. And that's your first step, to say, what do you enjoy? What makes you feel good? Maybe just baking or gardening, or, you know, throwing a ball against the wall. Anything repetitive is calming. What makes them feel frustrated, angry, or furious? They may think, oh, it's just under one thing, it's just anger. And maybe they're furious because their brother doesn't leave them alone all day. And you think, oh, well, your brothers, you should be having fun. I didn't realize you were actually frustrated that your brother was spending so much time with you. And if I give you 20 minutes of downtime, that's going to make you feel better. So then when you play with your brother, you're not so frustrated. So, how do I get my partner to be consistent in how we approach our child's behavior? Have him or her watch this. um, you really need to be on the same page. Sometimes just being that good role model, you can't control other people, but you can control how you react. Being that good role model, showing what things are going well. And then I would also just say, hey, when things are not going well or when things didn't go well, we can say, so, and when you're calm and your partner is calm, so this is my issue is I am trying to get Emily to do her own problem solving and you just let her stay home or you just fix that project for her and now she thinks that this is the answer. So it's really frustrating for me to do something and then the child knows that they can go to you. And I feel like the kids need to know that we are a unit, that we're a team, and we're there to support them. So the message is when you do this action, what's the message to our daughter? Are the messages, you can't do it, I'll just fix it for you, someone will rescue you, and I want to teach her how to be an independent person. I find depending on his stress level, his approach is either soothing or red hot. Children learn what they live as well. So if this is what children are learning as coping, that this is okay. And it's really frustrating for kids and teenagers, especially it's like, so it's okay for your head to pop off and for you to scream, but I have to stay calm and I'm 10 and I'm 15 and you're 45. Like, I don't think so, so that can be really frustrating. So validate the frustration, validate that it is hard. Even when you're talking to a teacher, when we do go back, I know my child can sometimes be frustrating, or I know this can be tough. This is what's working at home. How do I support you? What can we do as far as school strategies? Validate where they're coming from, but this is what my concern is. This is what I'm upset about. And try to come at from that angle instead of attacking them, but really doing that on a consistent level that this is the plan, let's work together. You have a plan with your child, you need a plan with your partner. And we don't always sit down to talk about it, but say, look, we have this problem. I want to talk to you about it. I don't want to fight about it. And I want the message to be consistent because I want to build my child's independence and we want to build her tools. We want her to go off and do well at school and do things and be able to do this on their own, right? It's tough too because not all of us were brought up this way, so this is really shifting things. Hit Points is free. You can go on there, you can download this. They've got feeling journals, they've got reward charts, they've got all kinds of things. And reward charts are great for noticing behavior. It's not bribery, it's saying, this is what I want you to work on. So when you are able to use your words or share your feelings, you get a check. After 2 checks, you get an extra story at bedtime. You get a loonie, you get a quarter. Sometimes it's just noticing. You don't have to have a reward chart. The reward is just saying, I noticed. But if you're trying to get a behavior started and you have these tools set up a reward chart, right? And what's going to motivate them? So if you say, I'll give you $1, and they're like, where am I going to go to spend the dollar? I don't care. I'd rather have 5 more minutes of screen time, or I'd rather pick the dessert, or have an extra story at bedtime. Ask them what they would like. And if they give you, I want $50, we can say, well, let's compromise here, right? Um, so break cards are great too, especially when you notice. I mean, it's just like telling a child you're tired. No, I'm not. I'm not tired. Well, when they're feeling stressed, and we notice that, do they have something somewhere they can go to? Do they need a card to help practice that thing? Do they have their thermometer to say, when I'm feeling angry, these are the things that I can do to calm myself down? A break card can be something you hand to that child when you're noticing their bubbles are starting to come up. It could be a code word or a code signal for an older child or a teenager to be able to say, especially if you're in the heat of a conversation and they say unicorn, and it's like, okay, I need a break, you need a break. And let it go. And then when everybody's calm, let's talk about it. Not as soon as they come out, let's talk about it. Okay, so give it some time and it'll get there. But having different things might be helpful. The other thing too is emotion is really important, that you're able to express emotion. Majority of us were not allowed to express emotion, only good emotion, no bad emotion. So, Dr. Siegel talks about name it to tame it. So if you can name your emotion, if you can say, I'm nervous, or I'm feeling frustrated, or I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm feeling insecure. I mean, those are a lot of big words. So, being able to practice that, talking about feelings, having a feeling word of the week, labeling your own emotion, labeling their emotion. Looks like you're feeling frustrated. Looks like you're feeling jealous. No, I'm not. I'm feeling blah, blah, blah. So, even if they just argue with you, at least they're telling you what's going on. So, labeling that emotion, and then what do I do to tame it? So your first step might just be talking about different emotion words, because mad, sad, glad, and bad is good when you're two, but we want to start to broaden that. So talk to your kids, use your own emotion words, have them use emotion words as well, and see how it goes and what are those things they can do to tame it. If you Google emotion wheels, these will come up. Um, Try something. So a happiness trigger, instantly something that would, make you feel happy. Looking at a picture of your puppy, the beach, maybe, an amusement park that they went to. Make a list of 3 things that make you happy. What are those things? Could you do that? Could your kids do that? And can they incorporate those things into their lives? Can they put a stone that they've created with some positive words on it? A button from grandma's sweater because grandma is their calming person. Um, and then put that in your pocket, and then they can have that, so when they're feeling a little overwhelmed, they can pull out that button. Maybe they have a playlist that they like to listen to that helps boost their mood or helps calm them down. So incorporate that around them, and it's just like anything, once you see it, it becomes invisible. So switching it up and having different ideas, post-it notes with positive messages that you can put in the bathroom for yourself, for them. Maybe have a dry erase board where you have those positive messages. You want to give the message that stress is okay. Let's work on some positive things. It's not normal to be happy all the time. You don't want to be throwing butterflies and fairies all the time at them. Allow them to have their emotion. It's okay. Not everybody's happy all the time. Sometimes they just need some space, but we do need some strategies as well. So again, we are negative people. That's just the way that our brains are created, unfortunately. So it's like a muscle. We have to work on being positive. What are some of those positive affirmations that work for you? What works for your kids? It could be something from a movie, from a song, something simple out of a book, or things that you look up online. Finding those little messages, switching it up, writing them on pieces of paper, post-it notes, that kind of stuff. Okay, and then there's that rethinking, right? Cognitive behavioral therapy works. We change the way we think, then we change the way we feel, and then we change the way we act, right? So if I'm if I'm thinking bad things, or I'm stressed, or I can't do this, I'm going to feel discouraged, I'm going to feel stressed, and then I'm going to act a certain way. So when you can change the thinking, it will change that cycle. So the negative thought might be, I can't do this. Instead, I've done it before, I can do it again. What if I don't win? I will do my best. What's going to happen tomorrow? Take it one day at a time. No one likes me, I'm a loser. I can play soccer well. I'm a great artist. I'm a good big brother, whatever it is. Good. I'm very happy that you like the resources and the visuals. Awesome. Thanks for that comment. So relaxation. Deep breathing, being able to take a big diaphragmatic breath, that big belly breath, that if you put a teddy bear on your belly, it would go up and down. It lowers the cortisol in your brain, but kids don't know how to do that. So we have to practice this stuff when we're calm and then incorporate it in their lives. Listening to music. Maybe you just put calm music on in the morning or in the afternoon where you need a little bit of that downtime. So that's that code to have some quiet downtime. Maybe you have it in the car, taking a bath, giving your child a little hand massage or shoulder massage, that kind of thing. Mental imagery, so imagining yourself somewhere, imagining yourself doing something well, imagining winning the race or, doing well on a test. All those things put you in a positive way and it helps with your stress and emotion and anxiety. Progressive muscle relaxation, when you tense your muscles and then you relax them. It helps show children how tense they are, and they may not know the difference between relaxed and tense. And meditation. You can find stuff online. We're going to give you a whole bunch of apps as well. Find something that works. YouTube, you have to find a voice you like. Maybe there's an app. Who do your children like to listen to? Elmo belly breathing is amazing, but maybe if you've got a 15-year-old, that's not going to work, right? So it's finding something that's going to work for them and trying to put it in the routine because stress builds, right? So every day, if we do a little bit, we keep the levels low. If every day we are pushing ourselves to our max and pushing, eventually our heads pop off. So, what can we do every day to keep it lower? So, when bad things happen, because they do, or stress comes up, we're down here instead of up here, and then our heads quickly pop off. And that's one thing with our kids is that everybody thinks that our kids are at a 0 and they go to 100 just like that. They're probably not at a 0. They're probably at like a 20 or 30 out of 100 or a 4 or 5 most days out of 10. So what can they do to lower those levels and be aware of those levels so they can go and do something instead of pushing, and then you give them lasagna instead of chicken for dinner and their head pops off. It's not about the lasagna. It's all the little things underneath. So this is a progressive muscle relaxation visual. You can Google all this stuff and find good things. Square breathing is a great way to teach diaphragmatic breathing. So you take a breath for 4, you hold for 4, you breathe out for 4, and then you hold. And again, it just helps do that, especially when they're hyperventilating. This does help to hold their breath. You can use a box to visually show them. Having a little quiet zone or a Zen zone. The Way I Feel, The Way I Act are great books. And again, these are for little kids, but you can create these things for older children. Ask them what they want. Where do they want to have that quiet zone? What things help them? And talk to them about it. Make it part of the routine, that it's something that you do on a regular basis, not just in crisis. We've got to do those things proactively. We're always trying to fight fires. It's about being proactive. Coloring, even for you guys as adults, anything that's repetitive that you don't really have to kind of think about is calming. But how often do you do those things that make you feel better, right? When you do good things, it'll help you feel better. So I'm just going to read this for you. I got it from the internet. Taming Your Dragons is a book. So I'm just going to read this for you as an example. If you're able to take a moment to put your feet flat on the ground and rest your eyes, just try to listen to the story. So lie down comfortably and close your eyes. Place one hand gently on your belly. Breathe into your belly and feel your hand move up and down. Imagine a balloon inside your belly. As you breathe in, blow up the balloon. As you breathe out, empty the balloon. Blow up the balloon again. Let the air leak out through your teeth with a long, slow hissing sound. Blow up the balloon again. Imagine sticking a pin in the balloon. Let the air escape through your mouth with a sudden pop. Notice how relaxed you are. Notice how good you feel inside. Now picture the whole sky full of beautiful colored balloons. Getting active is really good too for yourself and for your kids, especially when they've been stuck inside. What can they do to be active? What's fun for them? Can we create space for that? And distractions are good as long as we're not using them to avoid the stressor. Reading, playing a game, learning a new skill. These are all great tips for you as well because as adults we sometimes forget. And happiness is smelling an orange, is listening to, the ice crack in your drink, is enjoying a beautiful sunrise or sunset. It's watching your partner laugh, having a cuddle. It's those little things that fill us with joy. We're always looking for those big things, but when life gets too distracting, we just don't feel good. Our happiness meter doesn't is not filled, so we feel more stress, we're more negative. So it's those little things that every day build us back up. And if your children are struggling, they may be missing out on those things. And it may be that you start taking care of yourself first so you're more able to support your child. So the wheel of choice again is just something that you can look at. You can support your child with creating one of these. This is for conflict resolution. However, you can do it for I'm feeling stressed. What can I do? I'm fighting with my brother over the TV. Let's have a negotiation wall. You can use this for anything. So a bird sitting on a tree is never afraid of the branch breaking because her trust is not on the branch, but on its own wings. Always believe in yourself. And I don't think our children always believe in themselves and they are relying on you, the branch. So teach your children some skills, allow them to fly. It's going to be a little bit stressful for you, a little bit stressful for them, but you want them to do well in life. Okay, making sure you take care of yourself and some apps that might be helpful. Before we wrap up, is there any other questions that I can support? I realize I'm going over time here. And some books. And again, this is all stuff that you can find online. Name it to tame it. Well, thank you very much. I apologize I went a little over time, but I hope that that helps. Look at each child individually because these are just suggestions. Um, and you have to really look at your child and think, what are they struggling with? What can I support them with? And can I have these conversations with them? And just know that it might take a little bit of time, right? I'm so glad that you did find it helpful. Thank you for that comment. Okay, I'm done. Thank you very much for tuning in.
Just going to jump back on. There's a whole bunch of thank yous coming in, and
Ah,
I'm just going to
nice.
confirm that, and I did want to double check with you as well, Michelle, that these slides we can create a PDF document and put a link on the
Yeah,
resource page.
absolutely. Hmm.
Awesome. So we'll make sure that you have a copy of the slides, and many of the things that are in the slides will have the direct link on the resource page as well. And when you get that follow-up email with the link to the resource page, then you'll be right in the resource section of the Your website. And we certainly encourage you to take a look at some of the past recordings that are there, as well as their associated resources. Michelle and our colleague Sue have done several, and we have quite a number of other ones there. One of the most recent ones um, that just got recorded and posted is on that thank you slide there, which is supporting your child's educational learning at home. So that was just done specific to the situation that many families find themselves in right now, where their kids are at home and doing their learning from home, and that brings a whole new level of stress into life right now, and there's a lot of really complimentary um, suggestions and tips and links in that session that go really well with what Michelle shared tonight. And Michelle, thank you so much for everything
Yeah.
that you provided, and I really enjoyed actually when you did the belly button story there, and it kind of felt like I had a de-stress moment right there in the middle of the session, and so
Fantastic.
I'm grateful for that too. And thank you all for participating, and we hope to see you again soon. And Haruka, my colleague, she's been working in the background here as well. And Haruka really helps try and coordinate and make sessions for young people available. So the Your Space website also has some recordings and resources that are specifically for young people to watch themselves and be able to build some of their skills and feel supported too. And so we're certainly encouraging you to check those out with your kids as well. And hopefully Haruka will be supporting some live sessions soon. But if not, recorded sessions, there's lots of things happening in the community right now, and we would really, we're doing our best to make things available in a timely way for everyone, knowing how much pressure it feels like we're all under. So thank you again, Michelle, for helping us stress a little less, and we hope to see you all again soon. I see another comment here. Okay, I'll get that posted over here. Awesome. Thank you, Erica. There's another thank you. Um, Lots of useful information. And we know that sometimes it feels like there's way too much information and you don't know where to start. Because if you go and Google things, you're like, there's 5,000. I'm a family member myself with 4 kids with various mental health issues, and I do find, having some resource like your space to be able to go to and say, okay, at least I'll start here, and I can trust
Yeah.
these ones, because sometimes you go and Google things, you don't know if it's a good one or if it's a helpful one, and so this is sometimes helpful.
Yeah.
I do see one
And I
more.
like the comment that it was like I was talking about her son. It's because
Mm-hmm.
it's the same stuff, different pile. I hear very, very um, same things, right? So you're not alone. You're not alone.